You think you know people. You think you can read a room in seconds, size up a situation before anyone says a word, spot a winner before they even open their mouth. And here's the thing, you're probably right, most of the time. But there are moments, quiet moments, invisible moments, when your brain is playing the biggest trick in the book on you, and you have absolutely no idea it's happening. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why your mind is wired to rush toward conclusions, why you feel so confident even when you're completely wrong, and most importantly, one shift in awareness that can change the way you think forever. Stick around, this one gets deep. Hey, if you've ever second-guessed a decision you were sure about, hit subscribe. You're in the right place. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone at a party, talked for maybe 10 minutes and thought, I like this person, they're generous, they're trustworthy, and you felt certain about it? Where did that feeling come from? You didn't have data, you didn't run a background check, you barely knew their last name, and yet the verdict was in. That's not confidence. That's your brain doing something it does every single second of every single day, something it was built to do. It's called jumping to conclusions. And researchers who've spent decades studying how the human mind actually works, not how we think it works, but how it really operates under the hood, found something both fascinating and a little unsettling. Your brain is a story machine, not a fact checker. Not a logic processor, a story machine. The moment you receive even the tiniest bit of information about something or someone, your brain doesn't stop and say, hold on, let me gather more evidence before I form an opinion. Nope, it takes what it has, fills in the gaps with assumptions, weaves it all into a neat, believable story, and serves it to you as if it were the truth. And the wild part? The less information you have, the more confident the story feels. Think about that for a second. Less information, more confidence. There's a concept researchers gave a name to, and it's honestly one of the most elegant and disturbing phrases in all of psychology. WYSIATI. What you see is all there is. Your brain doesn't know what it doesn't know. It doesn't sit there thinking, I wonder what information I'm missing right now. It looks at what's in front of it, builds the most coherent picture it can, and treats that picture as reality. That's it. That's the whole game. Imagine someone tells you two things about a potential new leader. She's intelligent and strong. What did you just feel? Be honest. You probably felt something like, yes, good, I'd follow her. That's your brain writing a story in real time. And here's the twist. What if the next two words were weak and corrupt and cruel? Everything shifts, doesn't it? But here's the thing. You didn't wait for those next words. You were already sold. You jumped. And the landing felt perfectly solid. That jump, that's what we're going to unpack today. Let's go a little deeper, because this isn't just about jumping to conclusions on big decisions. This is happening in your brain right now as you listen to me. It happened this morning when you checked your phone. It happened yesterday when someone walked into the room and you decided, in under a second, whether you liked them or not. Here's something researchers discovered that genuinely blew my mind. Your brain doesn't just fill in missing information, it suppresses doubt, actively suppresses it. You know that feeling when something doesn't quite add up, but you can't put your finger on why, that uncomfortable little itch at the back of your mind. That's your brain trying to do its job, but your system one, the fast, instinctive, always-on autopilot that handles most of your thinking, doesn't like ambiguity. Ambiguity is expensive. It costs mental energy. It slows things down, so it smooths it over. Here's a simple example that researchers have used to show exactly how this works. Look at this scenario. You see a figure, let's say a letter or a number, something in the middle of a sequence. In the context of letters, your brain reads it as a letter. In the context of numbers, it reads it as a number. Same shape. Two completely different identities, and you didn't notice the choice being made. You didn't feel yourself decide. One interpretation walked through the door, and your brain locked it behind itself. The other possibility never existed as far as you were concerned. That's not a glitch. That's the design. Your brain chose the most probable interpretation based on context, ran with it, and never looked back. And in most cases, that's exactly the right call. It's efficient. It's fast. It keeps you moving. But sometimes, just sometimes, the context is wrong. The information is incomplete. And the story your brain builds is a beautiful, coherent, confident lie. Now here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Psychologist Daniel Gilbert, you might know him for his work on happiness, did a fascinating study on how the mind handles belief. His idea was rooted in the thinking of a 17th century philosopher, Baruch Spinoza. The theory goes like this. To understand something, you first have to try to believe it, not decide whether it's true. Just try it on. Your brain pulls the idea in, fits it into its network of associations, sees how it feels, and then decides whether to accept or reject it. Here's why that matters. The accepting part is automatic, fast, effortless. It's system one. The rejecting part, the skeptical, questioning, wait a minute part, that takes work. That's your slower, more deliberate thinking kicking in, and that part gets tired. In Gilbert's experiments, when people were mentally occupied, distracted, fatigued, overwhelmed, they were far more likely to accept false statements as true. Their brain pulled the idea in, went to reject it, found the rejection department was busy, and just let it stay. Sound familiar? Think about the last time you were exhausted and someone told you something that didn't quite add up. Did you push back or did you just let it land? Here's the thing nobody talks about. We're most vulnerable to believing things that aren't true exactly when we're least capable of checking them. When we're tired, when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed. That's not a coincidence, that's just how the wiring works. Let me tell you about the halo effect. If you've never heard this term, buckle up, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The halo effect is this. When you like one thing about a person, you tend to like everything about them. When you dislike something, you find reasons to dislike everything else too. It sounds obvious when I put it like that, but here's where it gets sneaky. This isn't a conscious process. You're not sitting there thinking, I liked how this person laughed, therefore they must be reliable and honest and smart. It just happens below the surface, quiet. A researcher named Solomon Asch did a classic study years ago. He gave two groups of people identical personality traits, the same 6 words, but in different orders. One person was described as intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, envious. The other, envious, stubborn, critical, impulsive, industrious, intelligent. Same words, same person theoretically, but people rated them completely differently. The first version, starting with intelligent, was seen as admirable, driven, someone with justified flaws. The second version, starting with envious, was seen as dangerous, manipulative, someone whose smarts made them worse. The first impression rewrote the entire story. And here's the part that should give you pause. That first impression, in real life, is often built on almost nothing. A handshake, a haircut, the speed of a smile. Whether someone makes eye contact in the first 3 seconds, your brain reads those signals, writes a story, and then confirms that story with everything that comes after. There's a word for this, confirmation bias. And it doesn't just affect how we see people. It shapes how we make decisions, how we form beliefs, how we interpret the news, how we remember the past. When you believe something, your mind automatically starts looking for proof. Not looking for truth, looking for proof of what it already believes. Researchers call this the positive test strategy. Ask yourself about someone. Is this person trustworthy? Watch what your brain does. It starts pulling up memories, moments, pieces of evidence that say yes. Now try the other frame. Is this person untrustworthy? Something shifts, doesn't it? Different memories come up, different interpretations of the same events. The person hasn't changed, your question has. And here's the thing, we almost never ask both questions. We ask one, we get our answer, and we move on. Confident, settled, that's the trap. CTA number 2. Mid-video. If this is making you think differently about someone in your life, drop a comment below. I'm genuinely curious what's coming up for you. So by now you might be thinking, okay, I get it. My brain cuts corners, builds stories, fills in gaps. But I'm a pretty sharp person. Surely I catch my own biases. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the research shows clearly, repeatedly across study after study, that the confidence you feel in a belief has almost nothing to do with how accurate that belief is. Nothing. What determines your confidence is the quality of the story your brain has built, how smooth it feels, how consistent the pieces are, how cleanly everything fits together. And here's the kicker. A small amount of information, when it all fits together, cleanly produces a stronger sense of certainty than a large amount of messy, complicated, contradictory evidence. Which means the people who are least informed about a topic are sometimes the most confident about it.
This
And the
includes
people
serving on a
who
jury,
know the
attending a
most,
job interview,
who've
or
wrestled
running for
with the
political office.
complexity, who've sat with the contradictions, feel the most uncertain. Does that ring any bells? Think about juries. Think about job interviews. Think about the way we size up political candidates or strangers on social media. In a study where participants listened to legal arguments, some hearing only one side, some hearing both, here's what happened. The people who heard one side were more confident in their verdicts than those who heard both sides. More information, less certainty, less information, more confidence. Your brain isn't just lazy, it's comfortable with being lazy because the stories it builds feel real, they feel complete. The gaps are invisible because WYSIATI, what you see is all there is, means you don't know what you're not seeing. Now here's the part I want you to sit with. This isn't just about being wrong, this is about how you move through life. Every relationship you've entered, every person you've written off, every time you've thought, I know exactly what this person is like, that was your brain doing this. Every time you've read a headline and felt immediately, viscerally certain about something you'd barely processed, that was this. And it's not weakness, it's not stupidity, it's not something to be ashamed of, it's engineering. Your brain was built for a world that required fast decisions, where hesitation could be dangerous, where acting on incomplete information was better than not acting at all. That wiring saved human lives for tens of thousands of years. It's just that now, in this world with its complexity and its noise and its flood of information and misinformation, that same wiring can lead you somewhere you never intended to go. So what do you do with all of this? Here's the one thing that actually moves the needle. Before you decide, especially when it feels obvious, ask yourself one question. What am I not seeing? Not what do I believe? Not how confident do I feel? Just, what's missing from this picture? That one question is the door. It forces your brain to acknowledge that WYSIATI might be in play, that the story might be incomplete, that the confidence might be borrowed from coherence, not truth. You don't have to slow down every decision. That's not realistic. But for the decisions that matter, for the judgments about people, about yourself, about what's possible, that question is everything. Because here's what nobody tells you about jumping to conclusions. The landing always feels solid. That's the whole trick. The floor doesn't give way. The story doesn't crumble in your hands. You walk away certain, satisfied, completely unaware of the 50 things your brain quietly set aside to give you that feeling. The greatest con your mind ever pulled is convincing you it showed you everything. It didn't. It never does. But now you know. And knowing, really knowing in your bones, that your brain is always working with incomplete information, always building the best story it can from what it's got, that's not a reason to distrust yourself. That's a reason to stay curious, to keep asking, to hold your conclusions a little more loosely. Because the most dangerous thing isn't being wrong. It's being wrong and feeling absolutely, completely, unshakably right. If this hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more videos that actually make you think, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.